Hey everybody, welcome to TSM Quarantined Edition. Each Sunday we will be bringing you videos of our typical TSM stuff. We'll have a message and some fun things to participate with. So we're glad that you guys could join us. And we're going to kick it off today with your friend and mine, Justin. So let's hear it for Justin.
What's up, party people? Thank you for being with us this Sunday. We are so glad that you guys are here. Man, what a great week. Nope, sit down, middle school boy. Sit down, middle school boy. Good. All right, so we have a really great morning planned for you guys. If you're new, I'd love for you to fill out a connection card. I don't believe I've seen you before here. And then we have a lot of fun stuff, so make sure you join our text list. It's 40650 and text Timberline MS, all one word, and you'll get a joke from me, maybe, who knows. But man, we are glad that you guys are here. Summer camp is still open. Hey, I want you guys to make sure you're signing up for summer camp. The spots will fill up really fast. We want to make sure that you guys will get to that. Anybody have any questions? All right, well, you guys can just head off into your grade groups and have a great Sunday morning, and we will see you guys when we all come back in together. All right, hey, see you later, guys.
Hey TSM friends, Luke here. Hope you guys are all doing okay with the whole quarantine thing. I myself am doing quite fantastic. My dog Colorado right there. I'm at home in San Diego, chilling in the jacuzzi, soaking up the sun, enjoying it. But since we're not meeting this Sunday, I was slated to speak to you guys, and so we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to be doing a video message that hopefully won't be too long, and it can be just kind of quick and easy for you guys to sit and listen to. Okay, so to get us started, sharing a little bit about my life, as I tend to do at TSM. Like a lot of you guys, kind of growing up, I was someone whose family was super busy all the time. We were either doing sports, or I had church stuff, or my family was running around on vacations. But generally sports were the one thing that kind of took over me and my brother's lives growing up. And so I remember growing up at a small Christian school. Like I said, sports and school and all that stuff were kind of what encompassed my life when I was in middle school specifically. And so I just remember whenever I'd go to church on Sunday, the youth pastor and my leaders being like, yeah, you got to get in the Word, you got to read your Bible, you got to do all that stuff because it's stuff super important, and it helps you learn more about your relationship with God and growth and all that good stuff. But I just remember it being one of those things where I just felt like my life was so busy and it was so full of like, but there's like so many cooler things that I could be doing right now. Like I could be playing video games, or I could be hanging out with friends, or I have practice, or I have schoolwork I got to do, and all these different things that could kind of be kind of taking up my time, and really finding it hard to kind of like slow down and have my time with Jesus and kind of focus on that stuff. And on top of that, like growing up, like I said, I was at a Christian school, and so it was super easy for me to kind of be complacent in that because I didn't have to be as focused because I was at school. Like school was church, and then I had church on the weekends, but then also I was basically going to Bible classes 4 days a week, and then I had a chapel on top of my already like Sunday meeting group and my normal like Wednesday meeting group. And so I had like basically 3 chapels a week and then 4 classes of Bible class every week. So it was very easy for me to put off like reading my Bible because I just had so much other stuff to do. There's so many other things grabbing my attention. Whereas like really tough for me to kind of stop and slow down and be like, oh, I want to read the Bible, a book that can be really hard to understand sometimes, and there's really weird stories and people do weird stuff in the book. But it was a tough thing growing up to kind of be able to slow down. And so the thing I want to talk about is that kind of idea of slowing down, of celebrating the Sabbath, or what we call like, oh, well, look who's that. It's Colorado. Hey, buddy. Yeah, my dog's name's Colorado. It's pretty cool. But the Sabbath is something that we talk about. We've talked about it a couple of times. If you guys can look back and remember a couple months ago when we were doing the Ten Commandments series, that was one of the 10 Commandments. If you can remember, that's the fourth one, which is remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, right? And then also you see the Bible referenced earlier than that in Genesis, where God, after he spent 6 days creating the whole entire world and universe, and on that seventh day he took some time to rest, to just chill. And so that's kind of where the idea of the Sabbath came from. It's that day of rest and relaxation where God just said, you know what, I've done a lot of work and I'm just gonna rest. And so the Israelites primarily saw this as being something that was super important and something that they really held dearly, because like I said, it was a part of the 10 Commandments, so it was already a part of like their law. So it was super important for them to follow those top 10 commandments, right? And so back in that time, the teachers and leaders of the law took all 613 or whatever of those laws they all had very, very seriously. And they made sure that everybody followed them and that everything they were doing was perfect and on point to what the law was saying. And so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of my favorite ones and like how extreme that some of these guys went just to make sure that they were following these rules and regulations. And in part, like these rules that they made up, like the idea of practicing the Sabbath was just the intention of resting and having that time to not have all the hustle and bustle of your work life throughout the other 6 days of the week kind of bogging you down. But it's a day for us as people, as children of God, to just rest in him and give our bodies some rest, both spiritually and physically. That it'll be easier for us to kind of recharge our batteries and then move on to the next week, right? And so like I said, many of the church leaders really followed this law to like the T and then some. Like they made laws on top of the laws. All it said was just remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Like just set aside this day. This is a day of rest and time with God. But then on top of that, they made rules on what that looks like and what was considered to be rest and what wasn't considered to be rest. And so I'm going to tell you guys some of my favorite ones that I kind of found and have learned about over the years. And so so here's one of the extremes. So many Jews back in the day, they didn't have cars, right? So they had to get around using animals or even just walking places. And so back in that time, the church leaders set up rules to how far one could walk within that time. So you could only walk a certain distance until it was considered work. And if you walked any further than that, then that would be against the law of, you know, resting on the Sabbath, because technically that would be work. So much so that they had it down to the amount of steps. And even if you walked that certain amount of time, that could be considered you digging, because that's also considered work, because you'd be kicking up so much dirt that could also be considered working too hard. So you would have to basically walk a certain distance, stop, rest for a certain amount of time, then you could continue walking again, and then have that being able to be considered, you know, resting and walking, because that could be considered to be too much work, which in my opinion is pretty ridiculous, because you're just walking. You know, how do you micromanage the distance? Like, is 10 miles too much work? Is 5 feet too much work? Like, what if I wanted to go grab pizza? Like, I'm hungry. Is that too much work because I'm like eating? Am I just gonna die? Maybe. I don't know. The Sabbath thing was kind of weird back then. So anyways, that's one extreme they would take. So then the other one, this one's kind of sad, but also kind of funny. I don't know, take it how you will. That there's this story of 1,000 Jews that were slaughtered. They were killed on the Sabbath because they decided not to defend themselves, because it was the Sabbath and that would be considered work. What a way to go. Sorry, I got food in my teeth. What a way to go, you know? In order to rest and relax, you die because of that, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. So this kind of goes to show the extremes of like the legalistic viewing of how this specific law was viewed. People wanted to make sure that they were really on it, that they weren't doing any work whatsoever, that they were obeying God's law, what they thought was God's law, what they wanted for them, what God wanted for them. His intention was pretty simple. Dude, just chill, relax, spend some time with me, and don't worry about work. Give your body some time to relax. But then they would go and do this crap, and then they die. Whack. It's insane. Okay, here's another one. So we all have the thing of when we carry someone else's burdens, right? Your friend, family member, whatever, has something that's bogging them down, some issues, something that's troubling them, and you kind of take that onto yourself to be like, oh, I feel that for you. Like, I want to help you with this. I want to talk through this with you. I want to give you advice. I want to like help you in whatever way I can, right? And that could be considered carrying someone's burden. Well, for them, even the act of carrying someone's burden was work. Like, you couldn't help somebody else because that would be considered work. Insane. But here's a really good quote that I found, kind of how they measured this amount of work and like how you could measure a burden's weight or whatever, like the weight of a burden. Food equal in weight to a dried fig, enough wine from, so this is like the measurements they were using. Food equal in weight to a dried fig, which is tiny, enough wine for mixing in a goblet. Yeah, I don't know. Milk enough for one swallow. So that's like a little, a little sip. Honey enough to put upon a wound. I've never done that before. Oil enough to anoint a small member. Small people. Water enough to moisten an eye salve. Weird. Paper enough to write a customs house notice upon. So just a small piece of paper, I guess. And then ink enough to write 2 letters of the alphabet. So that's not a ton of ink. And then a reed enough to make a pen, and so on endlessly. So it was like pretty small amounts. That's how they measured everything. Like food equal to the weight of a dried fig. I don't know if you guys ever seen a fig before. It's like this big, but then when it gets dried, it shrivels up like a little bit bigger than a raisin. So that could be considered work. Even the act of eating too much could be considered too much work. And the crazy part is they would just pick apart and micromanage everything, every single part of what they considered to be rest and what they considered not to be rest. And to me, it's just absolutely nuts because I just want to chill, like that's what I like to do on my Sundays. I want to relax. But to them, this like micromanaging was almost doing more work at the end of the day. Like if you would have just said, all right, hands off, you guys do what you want, that would be you not doing work. But then when you start to micromanage and control everything, every single like piece of what they're doing, that then becomes work, right? And so we see in Mark 3:1-6, where we see Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath. And we see the church leaders getting mad at Jesus because he healed this man, because he had a withered hand and he was injured and he was in the temple, and Jesus like saw the church leaders. They're kind of eyeballing him, waiting for him to mess up. And so he goes and heals this guy. And so when he does, the church leaders see him, and then they go, and I'll just read the verse to you guys and make it a little easier. So, let's see where the verse is. Oh, I don't have the verse, but that's okay. Okay, so anything, like I was saying, we see Jesus in the temple, and they're waiting for him to kind of mess up, so to speak. Like they're waiting for him to catch him. They were waiting to catch him in the act, basically, right? And so Jesus decides, he looks at them, he looks at the church leaders, kind of gives them one of these, and then heals the man. And the church leaders are really angry about it. So then they leave, and then this is one of those things that like kind of starts to getting the ball rolling for when Jesus gets executed and captured. And so, like I said earlier, the church leaders were so hyper focused on obeying the law. They were so focused on making sure that everybody else was doing what they were supposed to do, and they just micromanaged every single little part of how people obeyed one single law. A law that wasn't as in depth, but was at the same time. The law is just to rest in God and rest your body. And to them, creating more rules to say, oh, this might be too much, you're kind of missing the whole point of the idea. Because by doing so, you're actually creating more work, and then you're going against what the law is saying. And so, I think many times in our lives, guys, we also miss the point, because we don't really think of the Sabbath. I think the law, or that one part of the Ten Commandments, kind of gets lost because, you know, everybody spends their Sundays or like going to church, or watching football or relaxing or whatever. And I guess to me, the Sabbath was something that I didn't think about a ton. The other ones that stand out more are like, don't steal, like listen to your mother and father, don't murder. Like those kind of ones really stick out to you. The Sabbath is like, oh yeah, this is what we do as Christians. We go to church on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever, and that's what we do. That's it. I've, you know, clocked in, went to church, and I'm good. And so I think that is never just the intention. I think that with Sabbath, there's more to it in kind of observing and really using that time to get right with God. Like I know, guys, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, like I understand what it's like to have life be busy. I'm a college student. I mean, my life right now mostly encompasses time with friends, hanging out with you guys, school and work, and that's what takes up my life. And so I too struggle with this idea of Sabbathing or practicing a Sabbath, because it is hard to cut out time out of your day. It is hard to make time for God. It is tough to really take a break from your busy schedule to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna chill. I'm gonna relax, maybe watch a little Netflix, maybe read a book, do some painting, I don't know. But more importantly, I'm gonna take this time that I have to rest and spend it with God. That could look like we said earlier, going to church. You know, TSM on Sunday mornings is a great example. Obviously, you can't be there right now because of the coronavirus, but that's one way to do it. Worshiping God, spending time with God, reading a devotional, you know, reading just a chapter or even a verse or two from the Bible, praying. Like those are all really great ways to practice the Sabbath. But the importance is to not just like let it happen. I don't know if let it happen is the way to say it, but more or less like really being intentional about it. Like really taking that time and being like, I'm going to cut out this time of my day, whether it's 10 minutes or 15 or 30 or even an entire day. Like you're using your Sunday to be productive in that way. I don't think Sabbathing is just like, I'm just going to sit on the couch and then just like eat an entire bag of Cheetos and just binge watch for 10 hours The Sopranos. You guys don't watch The Sopranos. I don't know. What do you guys watch? The Disney Channel? But I think that being intentional in using that day of rest wisely and using that to get the rest that you need, whatever that may look like. And so the whole reason why I decided to talk about this whole Sabbath idea and kind of take a break from the if I was there kind of teaching, that we want to use this time, this whole weird situation. I get it. It's a really odd. All your events are canceled. You can't really be around people because you got to social distance. You're stuck at home. You're stuck with family. Blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, and I get that. Like everything is changing. Everything's weird. It's different. It makes no sense. But the one thing that we do have is time. We do have that time with family. We do have that time that we can be spending with God. And now you guys can't use the excuse, especially you 8th grade boys, that I don't have enough time to read my Bible, because I know you do now, because you don't have sports anymore. Your events are getting canceled. You know, stuff is changing. My graduation just got canceled. So in this time of kind of unrest and uncertainty and changes and cancellations and all that stuff, use this time to Sabbath, to rest in God, to pray, to read your Bible, to worship, and kind of sit and find peace with that. Like I said, it is weird. It's a totally weird and crazy time, and it sucks that we can't meet in person, and it sucks that, you know, for the time being, it's going to be a little bit of a time when we get to see each other for small groups. It's weird and it's crazy. But guys, I really, really encourage you to use this time wisely. Be with family. Really enjoy that time with your brothers and sisters and parents. Time you guys probably don't get to spend a lot together. And just really enjoy being with the people you love and care about. I mean, that's what I get to do. As you can see, my dog just running around in the backyard like a like a madman. But that's what sweet part that I've gotten to do. There's my dad. That I've gotten to really spend time with my family and just kind of sit and rest and kind of take a break from work and school and all this craziness that's happening. But know that God's still in all this. Like, it does seem weird, and I know that this is just going to be for a season. But take the time that you guys have right now. Use it wisely. Like I said, be with people you love and care about. Relax, rest, enjoy the rest of your spring break that you have left, and spend time with God. Just get in the Word, read a chapter. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Even if some of you guys actually watch this, that's awesome. That's a great step in Sabbathing, in spending time with God and kind of hearing His Word. So something to consider, some questions to consider, since I can't throw them up on the screen behind me because there is no screen. Some questions to consider. You can either write these down, and I'll try to say them slow. And just to think about. You can tell your parents. It could be a great conversation starter in the car when you guys are going to the grocery store, since you can't go to many places right now, or when you guys are eating or whatever. Like, this is something to consider and think about. Which rule was the funniest to you guys that the church leaders had regarding Sabbath? Out of those like 3 or 4 things I talked about, what was the funniest one? Because I think they're all kind of ridiculous. So number 1, which was the funniest rule or what was the word I used? Micromanaging kind of thing that they did with the law. Which one was the funniest? The next one is, when in my week can I take time to rest with God? When in my week can I take time to read the Bible? Or maybe worship with Him a little bit. Throw on some Hillsong, I don't know. Read a little chapter of the Bible, read a Devo, I don't know. Anything. That could look like a lot of stuff. The next one is, the second one was, when in my week can I take time to rest with God? The third question is, what can I do wisely with the time of rest? What can I use my time, or how can I use my time wisely with the time that I have? Like I said, a lot of stuff's getting canceled, so we all have a lot of free time. We have a lot of time at home where we quarantine ourselves away from everybody. What can you do? Like, how can you use this time wisely, rather than just letting it waste away eating food? And the last one is, did I wash my hands today? Think about that. You probably didn't. Or when was the last time you washed your hands? Because if it wasn't, in the last 15, 30 minutes, then probably should go do it again, because they're probably stinky and gross, and you don't want to get your family sick. So guys, we love you a lot. We miss you, and we can't wait to be together. Please stay safe. Please be healthy. Don't talk to anyone. I'm just kidding. And just make good decisions and use the time wisely. Enjoy the free time, and enjoy the time of rest. Okay? We love you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Hey, what's up, party people? J-Matt here. Hey, thanks for joining us this week. Man, we are really grateful that you chose to be with us this Sunday morning. Hey, next week we will have another TSM just like normal coming back at you through the internet. And so I hope you guys can join us. And hey, maybe if you hated this week, next week will be different. That's the beauty of TSM. So hey, I hope you guys join us. If you missed anything or you want to catch up or see things, and if you don't have social media, you can always join us on YouTube. Just type in Timberline Student Ministries and you will find us. Not TSM, Timberline Student Ministries, all written out, and you will find us on YouTube. Man, I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are staying well, and I hope you guys are using this time that you have well. We love you a whole bunch, and man, we're just grateful for you. All right. Hey, see you later, guys.